A tall tale is what we call a story that is so exaggerated that it's impossible to believe. What if a storyteller said that he'd seen a sea monster so huge that it was like something out of Jurassic Park? Those who have had a chance encounter with such a creature know that they are not telling a tall tale, and their conviction often results in them bearing the brunt of sarcasm and ridicule. One of these wondrous beasts exists in Quebec. Its name is Memphremagog.
It was the morning of May 18th, 2003, and Lake Memphremagog was practically deserted. Jean Grenier, a resident of the small town of Magog, which borders on the lake, was about to cast his line. Grenier noticed some unusual reflections, as if the water was being disturbed by something beneath the surface. Suddenly, a dark object rose out of the water without a splash. Jean Grenier watched the animal for close to 3 minutes. He couldn't see the head or tail, but he could tell that it was large. This fisherman from Magog would never forget his experience that morning. The day he saw Memphrey, the legendary monster of Lake Memphremagog. Located in Quebec's eastern townships, Lake Memphremagog is 52 kilometers long, 22 of which belong to the American state of Vermont. For 2 centuries, tales have been told of a strange beast that lives in the lake. When colonists first arrived in America, natives claimed that they never swam in the lake because it was filled with anacondas, which means large snakes.
Memphrey's story is the story of Lake Memphremagog. At school, the treatise on geography, published in 1871 by the Christian Brothers in Quebec, taught us that there are no dangerous animals in Canada, except for the monster that shows up every now and again for free in Lake Memphremagog. Ever since I started studying this phenomenon, the number of sightings has averaged about 3 a year. But there have been as many as 14 appearances in 1 year. And we've had some very convincing ones. For example, in the morning it could show up in Newport in the United States, which is on the southern part of Lake Memphremagog, around, let's say, 10 a.m. And then in the evening, around 5 p.m., it'd be seen again about 10 miles away. The same phenomena have been observed by different people, which is quite convincing.
One such sighting was made by Adrien Rompré. On May 5th, 2000, the retired Montreal police officer happened to look out on the lake from his home and noticed something leaving a wake as it moved quickly along the surface of the water.
I thought it was my neighbor taking his boat out. That's what got my attention, because I never believed what Mr. Boisvert said when people told him they'd seen Memphrey, as he's known. But I never believed it. But then when I saw this thing, this beast, I said to myself, that's him, that's Memphrey.
Hey, Claire. Claire, viens ici.
So of course I called my wife. I said, come see, there's something out there in the water. She came along with me, and then she saw, just like me, that there was something that we'd never seen in the lake before. It was a wave caused by that fish. No, not a fish, because it wasn't a fish. That beast that was coming towards us, that was snaking above and below the surface. The two of us watched for a good long while. It looked like a sea otter to me. I can't say for sure, but it might have been one. At any rate, it was really strange. It was about 4 or 5 feet long, with a rather big head, huge eyes, and whiskers on both sides of its mouth. Then we lost sight of it, because it dived quite deep, or at least it would seem so since we didn't see it again. I get asked quite often if there are any scientific studies that tried to prove whether or not this phenomenon exists. I should add that one year a student came from MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and together with one of my friends, went the whole length of the lake and back with what we call a sight scan. And they found nothing out of the ordinary. At that time, they found nothing indicating there was a creature in the lake. I was a fishing guide on Lake Memphremagog. I was out early that morning trolling for gray trout with a man from Villac-Cartier.
On June 18th, 1989, Mr. Charland and his client were fishing in the depths of the lake. Suddenly, his sonar picked up a large underwater object bearing down directly upon them.
All of a sudden, I said to Mr. Hamel, "Watch out," I said. "I think we're going to capsize." "What do you mean?" We had just picked up something really big on the sonar, something that didn't belong there, for the plain and simple reason that I knew the area inside out, and it wasn't a rock, that wasn't it. And I said, "Hold on to the boat, here it comes." I looked over and I saw it. It was about the size of a horse, with a tail about 12 to 14 feet long, and it had 2 legs in front. It was upright. And then I took off after it, and I tried to get a closer look with the motor at full speed. And when we were about 150, 200 feet away from it, it went underwater. No way. There really was something there. If I hadn't seen it, I would tell you I hadn't seen it. But I saw it with my very own eyes. The other guy who was with me saw it too. He didn't want to go back. He didn't want to go back on the lake. "We're not going to hang around here. Let's get out of here." Now, we don't know how many of them there might be in this lake, but I saw one once, and that was enough for me. It's hard to say because we're in 2005, and just last week I read in L'Actualité, the news magazine, that new species of animals were still being discovered on land. I'm not talking about the water, just the land. But the same goes for the water. Every year we discover thousands and thousands of new animal species in the water. It's not easy to say for sure, since this whole business of sea monsters from all parts of the world still eludes us.
Lake Memphremagog, And it's your vacation?
Oui. My vacation dans la belle Provence.
Ben ouais.
These images are taken from an amateur video filmed on August 12, 1997 by tourist Patricia de Bruin-Fournier and her husband Daniel Long. Something unusual happened as the couple was fishing peacefully that day.
My wife was videotaping at the time, just as she tends to do quite often. And we noticed the wave. She immediately zoomed in on it. We probably saw it for 10 to 15 seconds before it seemed to disappear. The object, whatever was causing this, seemed to submerge again. It's a very short clip.
That's weird. That's too weird.
It definitely wasn't a log. It was moving too quickly. It was an animate object. There was something, to me, something was below the surface, moving, producing that wave. I can't speculate whether it's a fish. It would be a large one if it was, and it wasn't normal fish behavior that I've seen swimming below the surface for any great length. So I don't know. I don't have a good guess.
The footage was analyzed by experts who have been at a loss to identify the beast living in the lake. Is it a 200-year-old sturgeon? A dinosaur from Jurassic Park? An unknown species of lake monster? All of these theories seem highly improbable. But improbable does not mean impossible. Sherlock Holmes was quoted as saying, "When you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth."
At times, when researchers try to investigate strange phenomena like the monster in Lake Memphremagog, they find themselves in a vicious circle. In order to obtain concrete proof, researchers need specialized equipment, techniques, and logistics. It's the type of work that requires major funding. But without a shred of evidence, no investor is going to put up a dime for the research. And without the investment, it's impossible to prove these phenomena. In the meantime, the tall tales continue to be told.